Hey guys, we're going to work on layers in GIMP today. And layers are like sheets of paper that are just stacked on top of each other. Some of them have a certain amount of transparency compared to others. If you look at here where it says brushes, brushes 1 and paint, notice the checkered boards. That means there's a lot of transparency. Here there's not a lot of transparency. So layers are like sheets that you stack on top of each other. And you can have a lot of layers in a GIMP file, but you're going to usually in general work on one layer at a time, and that layer is called the active layer. So you can see here paint is my active layer, brushes is my active layer. If you click on a tool over here, lots of times it'll gray out, but that's still my active layer even though you can't see it very well. You can just click back on it and you'll see that's your active layer. Something else about layers is layers have borders, and so if I click on this layer, you can see the border around the word responsibility. That's a layer. I could change that border of my layer. Here's another border of another layer. I can click on paint or brushes. You can see brushes, how that layer here, but on paint, notice the layer takes up the full canvas. And the canvas is basically everything that you see within this gray area. That's the canvas. So whenever you export a file, it's only going to export that amount. Alright, some things you can do with layers is you can move them. So you could click on the layer that you want to move, come to your move tool, and you click on the letter if you have text, and you can move that layer wherever you want. Sometimes it gets hard to click on a layer, and let's say I want to click on ownership. Well, it's not moving. Something else is moving. Well, if you need to make sure you're on your correct layer. So that's taking ownership. I can see the border around it, and now I can move it. But if I click on it, if I don't click on the letter, it's still not moving. So you need to be sure you click on the letter of the text in order to move it. Sometimes if you're having a hard time moving your layers, you can come under where you click on your move option where it says pick layer guide, click on move the active layer. That's the blue one. So whichever one is blue, that's the one that's going to move. And so I could just click anywhere and it'll move that particular layer. Another thing about layers is you could change the opacity or how much you could see through them or not. So let's say responsibility. If I could change where it says opacity, opacity means opaque or that you cannot see through something versus transparency. So transparency means you can see through, opacity or opaque means you can't see through it. So right now, responsibility, you can't see through the word. But if I click here and put it to about 50%, you can see I could see through it, and then I can go all the way to 0, and I can't see it at all. So that's what opacity is. It allows you to be able to see through or set up a certain percentage of seeing through a particular layer. So I could come to my background layer, and I could change the opacity. It's at 100, and it allows me to see through that particular layer and see what's behind it. All right, so I'm going to leave that at 100. Something else you can do with layers is you could hide them. So if you see the eye, that stands for visual. So I could click on the eye and notice responsibility goes away, comes back. Click on taking ownership, goes away. So you can hide any layer and see the kind of effect that it has. Layers can also be linked together. So I'm going to click on taking ownership and responsibility. I'm going to try to move these, but if I try to move them, because my active layer is background, I'm going to end up moving my background. See that? Control Z undoes that, puts it back in the spot. So make sure you have on your active layer, because lots of times you get frustrated. And that says move the active layer, so I can pretty much click anywhere, and instead of moving just one word, it's going to move all the links that I have together. So if I were to link this also with that, I can move that. Notice it's moving all of those layers together. I'm going to hit undo, make sure that all gets back. That's what links do. I'm going to unlink those. All right, something else we're going to do is we're going to scale a layer or resize a layer. So I'm going to go ahead and hide responsibility and taking ownership of my education. And I'm going to click on centerpiece. And I'm going to resize this layer. And you can see the border of this layer. That's responsibility. All right? So if I click on centerpiece, you can see that centerpiece takes up the whole canvas size. So I'm going to resize it. So I'm going to come over here to the left, and it says scale tool. I'm going to click on the scale tool, and then I'm going to click on my layer. Now make sure you're on the right layer, which is your centerpiece. So I'm going to change this. I could do it several ways. I could change it here by just holding that down, or I could come here and click on it and change it. But notice it doesn't keep proportions. I want it to be proportional. I want it to keep its proportional. So I'm going to hit reset. And if you click on this link, that's going to keep it proportional. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. I'm going to make it about that size, and I'm just going to hit scale. Alright, so there it is. Now I want to move it. So I've got to go back to my move tool, and I'm on move the active layer, so that makes it easy to move. If I'm on pick a layer, then I'm going to have to be real close, and I could always zoom in on it. But I'm going to hit move the active layer, make sure I'm on my piece, and I can pretty much click anywhere, and it's going to move that one layer. I'm going to come put it up here. The other thing I want to do is duplicate this layer. So instead of having to remake it again, I could just click this where you have two windows. It says create a duplicate. I'm going to click on that, and so it just made a duplicate, one on top of the other. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to drag that down here. And then I'm going to turn that back on. Let's just say I don't like these. I can come back here to my centerpiece, and I could turn them off this way, or I could just delete them. So I'm going to go ahead and delete them. You can see that one's my active layer. Delete that. So they're gone. Instead of that, I'm going to use my brush. So here's my brush. Here's my, I can change the size of this. Here's my brush selections. I'm going to click on the star. Alright, the next thing I want to do after clicking on the star is I want to click a new layer. It says create a new layer. So I'm going to click create a new layer, and it says I could do the foreground, that's in the front, that's black. I could do the background, that would be white, or just white, or transparency. Sometimes you can change these colors, that's why it gives you the foreground and background. I want it transparent. I'm going to hit OK, and notice it gives me a new layer here. I'm going to rename this layer. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to call it star. And then you have to hit enter, and it'll leave it as that. If you don't hit enter and you just click off of it, it'll just leave it as a layer. So make sure you hit enter after you type in the new name for it. Alright, now I'm going to check the size of my brush. I'm going to come over here on the left, and here's my opacity, here's my size. It says 228. And I come here, and I'm going to click. Now I'm going to hit Control Z and undo it. I could make that larger if I want. Control Z, undo it. I can make it smaller. I want mine smaller. I'd say a little bit smaller than that. I'm going to go, pop that out. You just click on the tab and roll it back in. I'm going to go down to about 150, about that size. Alright, so I'm going to click on my star, but I don't want black. I want this red color. So I'm going to hit Control Z, undo it, and I'm going to go to my color picker. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to this red and click on it, but nothing happens. This is supposed to turn red. That's because my active layer is on star. So instead of being on star, I'm going to come down to my background where the red color is at. Now I'm going to click on it, and notice my foreground changed. So now I'm going to come back to my brush. I've got my star, I've got my size, and I'm going to click one up here. I'm going to click one down here. Alright, I like that color, but I want it a little bit darker. So I'm going to hit Control Z, undo that. I'm going to click on my foreground color, and I'm going to make it darker. There's a couple of ways I can do it. On value, I could push this down, and it makes it a little darker. You can see the difference here. Now I'm going to leave it there. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to come back. It's a little bit darker. And I'll leave it like that. Okay, so we did a lot in this video. We talked about layers, that they're like sheets, and there's lots of them. You can work on many of them. Actually, you can have lots of them, but you work on one, and that's called the active layer. Remember, these are the borders of those layers of the active layer. You can change the opacity of a layer if you want to. You can hide or reveal a layer if you would like. You can link layers together so that they move together, or unlink them. You can scale a layer by coming to the scale tool. You can also rename a layer by double clicking on it, and make sure you hit enter. So it renames, and you can create a new layer. It can be transparent or a white or different background. You can also move layers up and down. So I could take this layer and move it down if I want, or move it up. This duplicates a layer, and this deletes a layer. Alright, so here's your assignment. I want you to put the stars in. That's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing I want you to do is on your layers, this centerpiece one, when you open it up, it's going to have that there. I want you to delete it. Right. The third thing I want you to do is to go to your grunge layer and duplicate it. And then I want you to rename it grunge 2. Hit enter. And on grunge 2, I want you to change the opacity to about 50. Right there. And I want you to come in and put in a new layer, make it transparent, hit OK. And that layer, I want you to rename it and just call it blank. And I want you to move that layer all the way up to the top. All right. I didn't hit enter, so it didn't rename it. So remember, after you hit it, you have to hit enter in order for it to keep the name. Alright, the last thing I want you to do is to put your name in here. So you're going to come over to the text tool. When you set the text tool, set your size ahead of time. I'm going to hit 70. I'm going to change it from the maroon color to black color. Hit OK. Make sure you have quill perpendicular. To do that, you're just going to click on that little icon there. You're going to have to go all the way up and find it. Make sure you get that one. Right, and then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to type my name. Alright, and then to move it, go back to the move tool. I'm on the move active layer. And I want it a little bit smaller than that, so I'm going to click on A. I'm going to click inside my text box. Control A selects it all. And I'm going to change it to 55, hit enter. And then click on my move tool and put it right there. That'll finish your project.